So I'd like to welcome everyone and a big hello from both Bob Burnham and I. And we're Celebrity Expert Author, and I'd like to welcome you to how to write your expert book fast and get it selling in bookstores now. And anyway, what we do as Celebrity Expert Author is we help experts publish a best-selling book that multiplies their business, and we encourage them to use it to grow their business and make massive amounts of money on the back end. And that's the kind of strategy we'll be sharing with you today. And our promise for this webinar today is that you can be the leading expert in your field and activate multiple hidden income streams by joining the ranks of published author. So in this webinar, we are going to be sharing a whole ton of information, just all sorts of things that you can do even before your book is written to start capitalizing on your status as an expert author. And we have so many examples of people who have taken just one thing that we've shared and used it to add thousands of dollars to their bank account in their business just because of learning one strategy that they put into place. So I want you to make sure that you give us your focus and really plan to stay with us for the next 75 minutes or so, because we have some really some really great insights to share. We also have some special things to give you, some bonuses that we'll be sharing at the end, and we'll be talking about those throughout so that you can really just take what we're talking about today and put it to use right now. So do make sure you stay with us, because we will be sharing our top 10 favorite ways to make money with your expert book. And like I said, some of them you can use even before your book's written. Some of them, of course, it does take becoming a published author. But these things have made people thousands, tens of thousands, and hundreds of thousands, if not even more. And Bob is going to share some really, really great stories about some of our clients that have done just that. So just do make sure you stay till the end, and we will show you exactly how to claim those bonuses. So I do have some questions for you. Those of you who are here, obviously you're interested in a book. You know that you need a book. And what I want to ask is, have you written a book? And if the answer is yes, congratulations. If the answer is no, and you want to write a book, you're in the right place. And if you have written a book, are you happy with the profits? And if you are happy with the profits, again, congratulations. If not, what's going on? I'm going to share with you exactly how we can actually start getting focused on the right numbers and making big profits now. Now, I'm just going to do a quick tech check here. Bob, are you saying the slides need to be bigger?
Well, yeah, if they can be bigger, it'd probably be the regular setting.
Let me just see. That's me. Hi. Go back to screen share. Here we go. And present to everyone. How's that?
Still small on this end, but it works.
All right. Any bigger now?
No.
That's what I've done in the past.
Okay,
so,
well, that's fine. Yep.
All right. So if you're not happy with the profits, that's what we're talking about today. And then finally, what is in your way of writing a book that grows your business? Well, let's visit a few of these things. A lot of people that we encounter, and we talk to a lot of people that know they need a book, that want to write a book, and most people are perfectionists. They think that this book needs to be perfect, and I'm just not there yet. Maybe you're worried about what your peers will say, and that you'll be judged if you say what you think. I know this is a big one for me, being a chiropractor, that I didn't want to stick my neck out. How do I get published into the bookstores? That's a big one when people don't even know where to start. How am I going to do this? And obviously, from the title of this webinar, we are going to tell you what you need to do to get published and into bookstores now. And how do I even find a publisher? There's a number of ways. It's not necessarily what you think, and Bob is going to talk about that for sure. I can't write. You are going to be amazed. Later on in this webinar, I'm also going to share with you 4 people that will save you hundreds, if not thousands of hours of writing. And anybody can do this. It could make the difference between you thinking, I can't write, therefore I'm not writing a book, and you starting your book right now. And I don't have any special talents or skills to write a book about. Usually the talents and skills that people are interested in that we overlook them. And what if it doesn't sell? This is the beautiful thing, is you can make a whole lot of money without selling a single book. You will sell some books. And you know what? Bob's going to talk all about how money is made in this industry now. It's too big a project for me to take on right now. Well, you know what? Those things that are really big projects and that are really meaningful, it takes us making room for them in our lives, because it always will seem like it's not the right time. So it is the right time if you know you need a book and you know that a book will grow your business. I'm waiting until I have some time to write some of my thoughts down. Just like I said, that time never really comes. The whole thing is just too overwhelming. I have to admit, it's a big project and you do have to chunk it down. And we will show you some ways of chunking it down so that it just seems really doable. And if you're committed to doing this, we'll show you how to do it. And finally, that list goes on and on and on. We're going to do our best to address every single one of these things and more. So just stick with us and pay close attention, because I'm sure most of your questions are going to be answered right now. Now, when we think about the dream of the author and what it's like to publish a book, most people just think, well, I'll write a proposal, I'll find a publisher like Penguin, and I'll get an advance on my royalties, and then I'll start writing. Maybe I'll go to a cabin in the woods somewhere romantic and just get inspired, and then I'll get published, I'll do a book tour, and I'll cash in on the book royalties. And it really would be nice if it worked that way, but Bob, what's the reality?
Wouldn't it be just lovely if it worked that way? And I guess at one time in history, it did work that way. But it has evolved. The publishing industry has evolved immensely, especially over the last decade. And, to give you an example, this is our mentor. Her name is Lisa Sasevich. And Lisa Sasevich had a following of over 1 million people. So she had 1 million people reach with her book, and she started looking around for a traditional publishing agreement. And she has a high profile. She has a very high profile. And even she could not get a traditional publishing agreement. She ended up going a different route. We're going to tell you about that different route a little bit later in the webinar. But, nowadays, a publishing company will take a risk, but they will take a calculated risk. At one time, there were 25 big publishers. Now there's really 5 big publishers. So the traditional publishing route has really evaporated. And for most of us mere mortals, we aren't going to get a traditional publishing agreement. And you might look at that as bad news, but in fact, it is not good news, or it is not bad news. It is good news. And we'll tell you the good news for us and many of our clients and how it's worked out. And the good news it worked for Lisa Sasevich as well. So the reality is there are some big barriers to making it as an author. And some are real and some are in our minds. Well, truth be told, I think most of the barriers that we run into are within our mind. And I teach a lot of workshops around North America. And most of the barriers that we run into are in our mind. As long as we have the right information, we can make big money with our books, but we just have to perceive and look at our situation. And once we sort of look at our situation and get the right information, it's a great system for positioning yourself and building up your profile and building your business. I actually know of no better way. But it's not easy. Think about it. There's over 7 billion people on the face of the planet. So 7 billion people, and yet there are only about 500,000 published books each year. So if you break those down roughly, it means that less than 1 in 25,000 people are actually publishing a book each year. And a lot of the times there's a number of people that publish several books, but in actuality, there's very, very few people publishing books each year because they perceive that it's so hard. Did you notice I said perceive? The actuality is it's not that hard. You do need the right information, but if you have the right information, it's something that anybody can do. It's something that's very, very easy, and that's exactly what we teach our hundreds of clients that use this particular method. So um, the traditional publishing industry, like I say, has all but dried up. What used to be the traditional route of finding that publishing agreement doesn't exist for 99% of it. 99% of us entrepreneurial authors, which turns out to be in the long term and in the big perspective, a great opportunity for us. We don't need the traditional publishing route. So that's something that we don't focus on. Now, something else I wanted to talk about is the average author makes less than $500 a year. Now, that's amazing. $500 a year. When you break that down, that doesn't even really buy a latte a day at Starbucks. And one of the reasons that most entrepreneurial authors and most authors make so little money is because they focus on the wrong numbers. And this is something we go over our clients with all the time, is they always seem to focus on the small numbers, the little numbers, and they miss these huge big numbers that we teach our clients. And once you focus on these huge big numbers, things really start to happen with your book and your business. It's all, once again, perspective. And a lot of the times to put this book together, it could really be a huge, overwhelming experience. Because there's so many little pieces to the puzzle. How do I publish it? What's the right copy for the product description on the bookseller websites? There's so many little details to putting your book together. And let's face it, one of the reasons that we want to do a book is to position ourselves as the authority and the expert. And that's exactly right. But if you don't do it in a professional manner, you can do the opposite of what you're trying to do. So all of these little processes, although easy, if you don't have the right information, can be totally overwhelming. Don't you agree, Paul?
It's what keeps people paralyzed and keeps people from doing something that can really help them. And really, we want to show you that if you know where to start and you have a system, something that you can follow through, you don't have to worry. It really can be quite simple. And they're just simple steps. You have to put them all together. And when you follow a system, it it can't help but work. And Bob, why don't you just tell them a little bit about where you came from, and then we'll get into some stories.
Yeah, so for sure. So yeah, I should introduce myself. I'm sure some of you on the webinar today know who I am, but for those that don't know who I am, I'm a multiple #1 Amazon best-selling author. I'm an international speaker, and I've been doing what I've been doing now for approximately 10 years. As a matter of fact, I just had my 10-year anniversary of being in this particular niche. And I love what I do, but it wasn't always that way for me. As a matter of fact, I came from the brick and mortar background. I had a fire and flood restoration company, and I'd built it up to about 26 locations across Canada. And at the highest point, I had approximately 600 full and part-time employees. And, I really love the money. As a matter of fact, I had done about $30 million in sales before I was 30 years old. And I really, really loved that part of the business. But I really did not have a passion for the traveling and the fact that I had to deal with 600, plus employees, and the fact that I was dealing with a lot of customers, and the fact that I was flying from office to office. That was the part that I really didn't like. I liked the money, but I really didn't like the whole travel idea. And as a matter of fact, most of my time was really spent really in airports. I would fly from office to office, and it was something that I really started looking at. how can I change that? How can I really change that? Rather than being away from my family all the time, how can I change that? So I started looking at ways that, I could, understand or get to see my children growing up. When I go into an airport right now, and there's my daughters, I'll tell you who they are in a second. But when I go into an airport now, I still get sort of I don't know, almost a charge. I don't like going to an airport. I like going to an airport if I'm going on a vacation, but I really don't like going to an airport if I'm going somewhere for business. I still, obviously go to airports to do speaking gigs, and I still get a little bit of a charge. But if I'm going to an airport, like I say, per vacation, I feel good about it. So I really didn't want to miss my daughters growing up, and here they are. On the right hand side is Shay, and she's almost 30 years old, and in the middle is Sky. She's 12 years old. And on the left hand side is Lex, and she is 19 years old. And they're all dancers. And what I do now is what I absolutely love is rather than flying from office to office, I work from home, which I love. And Paul does the same thing, and he's going to tell you about himself in a second. But now, rather than 600 full and part-time employees and all the, what's going on, now I have subtrades. And now I work from anywhere I want, but mostly I work from my living room and kitchen. And I have subtrades, like I say, one's in San Diego, one's in Florida, one's in Chicago, one's in Port Moody, very close to me. But she never comes over. And I can come and go whenever I want and still make absolutely great money. And it's all through positioning myself with a book. And I really, really love that transformation I've made with my life. And how I've been able to do that. And that's exactly what we share with our clients, is exactly how to position themselves as an entrepreneurial author and become the authority and the expert in their particular niche and make above average incomes and sell high ticket programs. So that's probably enough about me. Paul, you're going to tell a little bit about yourself as well?
Yeah. So I'm Dr. Paul, and the kind of doctor I am is I'm a chiropractor, and I've been doing that for 19 years. But in fact, I sold my chiropractic practice 3 years ago, so I haven't actually been working hands-on with patients for the last 3 years. But during my time in practice, I built 2 offices into the multiple 6-figure range. And, I was living a really good life. I had a great income. I had the credentials being a doctor, so the respect and the, I had that whole image. But, I still had to build a business. And what I found is that the best way to get clients is by speaking. So I became a speaker, and I did most of my stuff in-house, but I'm also an international speaker. And I'm an expert at hosting small events to generate high-end clients, high-end customers, because that's exactly what I did in my practice. And that's what I do now with speaking is, and Bob and I both do it. We hold, small events. And because we know how to make money and focus on the right numbers in a book, we know that it doesn't take a whole lot of people to get some high-end clients and make a good income. Now, this is me at the office before I made my transformation into this type of industry. And what I had to do is I had to show up at work. I had to go to an office that I paid for. So I had really expensive rent in downtown Ottawa. I had all this square footage. I had all these tables, and there had to be people like you see on these tables, occupying those tables and paying me $45 for me to make my money. If I didn't have my hands on somebody, I wasn't making money. If I didn't go to the office, I didn't make any money. If I didn't have an office and pay the expensive overhead and pay my staff, I wasn't making money. And I wasn't always crazy about that, because I wanted to be able to work from home, to work for clients for more than $45. And being a chiropractor, my hands were kind of tied. I'm regulated as a professional. We think that the doctor title is what's going to do it for us, but really, I could only charge $45 to $50, and if I tried to charge more than that, people would go to someone else. But when I published my book, what happened was I wasn't regulated by anyone anymore. And what I found was that being a published author actually trumped being a doctor. Now, I wanted to take my business virtual, and so that was part of my reason for looking at how to become an author. But it wasn't the easiest path for me. I listened to a webinar, and someone was telling me how easy it was to publish, and said, just hey, put something out on Amazon on Kindle, and all these people will buy it. Well, I made a whopping $30 on my first ebook. I thought, well, who doesn't want to know the secrets that happy people know? And, I know how to make people a lot happier. And so I'd love to share my knowledge and get paid for it. But the sad reality is that, unless you know how to charge for your knowledge and do it in a way where people are willing to pay its value, it's very difficult. Because, I had put together a product, and I had worked very hard at putting this together. It had audios, it had, had a workbook, and it had little videos people could follow for how to apply my high achiever success formula. I couldn't get $69 for it. People would, I'd even offer it to people in my office, and they're like, "Can I claim it through insurance?" I'm like, "This is a high achiever success formula. Of course, insurance doesn't pay for it." But no, I couldn't sell it. And so that really was quite disappointing for me. But with these strategies that we're talking about today, how to really take advantage of your author status and how to use your book to promote you and your business rather than trying to sell your book, that's what makes all the difference. And that made all the difference for me, because when I stopped trying to sell books and I stopped trying to sell these little products, and I focused on the right numbers, it all turned around. And in reality, what it has turned out for both Bob and myself is, Bob's in Vancouver sitting in his condo right now, and I'm sitting in my living room here in Ottawa. And it has enabled us to have like a $50,000 day without even leaving our homes. Honestly, Bob and I have actually only met twice in person. We talk to each other every day. We've become really great friends. We know all about what's going on in each other's lives, but our relationship is virtual. Like we do it all through the phone, through the internet, and we work with our clients this way. And like I said, we've been able to not just have one 50K day, but just recently we just off of a very small talk, I think there was 9 people that showed up, and within another day of that, we had a $46,000 day. And it's just that's what's possible when you focus on the right numbers and you're not trying to make $19.97 off your book. So so this is something that's actually possible for, whoops, let me just back the slides up here a little bit. This is something that's possible for anyone. And what I'd like to share with you is actually a friend and client of mine here, Livia Pellerin. And she's, I actually went to her because my knees were hurting, and I had, I'm a little bit crazy. I like to do things that are really high impact on my body, and I've done a lot of heavy duty training. And anyway, she's a Rolfing therapist, and so I was going to see her, and she's charging about $100 per session, and she happened to be interested in what we were doing, selling information and positioning yourself as an expert. And when she started working with us, she applied something we taught her right away: how to do a strategy session and how to take somebody into a high-end program. And within 30 minutes of learning what we taught her, she turned it around, and she had a $10,000 week. And she's working on her book now. Her book's not finished, but she, instead of charging $100 an hour, think of how many hours that she'd have to work to make $10,000. 100. She ended up selling packages and making $10,000 that very week. Now, Bob, you really like this story.
Oh, I absolutely love this story because the message behind it, because we all have these successes, but a lot of the times, and even myself, I've been guilty of this, we have these successes, but we forget about them. So what I mean by this one, this is a gal that we've been working with for a while in Halifax, really nice gal. Her name is Susan Swim. And she actually did a co-authored a book with Lisa Sasevich. And she had been, going out and doing talks and such forth, and she was telling us about a talk she was doing a particular night. And we were asking her if she's going to be taking her book with her that she co-authored with, Lisa Sasevich. And she said, well, no, it's just, 40 women, and I'm just going to have a little bit of a talk. And if anything comes out of it, great. And nothing comes out of it, that's fine too. I just want to, just have a nice talk and see what happens. And of course, Paul and I said, no, absolutely not. Because what you have here, Susan, is a book that has created great value for her. Because what we would like you to do is take that book with you, because she actually, after it was published, she put it up on her shelf and she forgot about it. And I've done the same thing. I've forgotten about stuff or things that I've been successful on. But anyhow, we asked her to take it off the shelf, so she did. And we asked her to take it with her to that particular talk. And when she introduces herself, introduce the fact that she is Susan Swim, who she is, but she is also, and this is true, she is also a co-author of the book, Answering a Call with Lisa Sasevich. Now, by the way, if you don't know who Lisa Sasevich is, she is actually the mentor to some of the highest profile people on the planet. People like John Assaraf in The Secret, people like Brian Tracy, the godfather of self-development, people like Les Brown, people like Robert Allen. She co-wrote the book, and she should use this and introduce herself. So she did. And what happened at the end of that talk, she had 27 people out of the 40 that wanted to talk to her and possibly do business with her. So she went from, well, we'll see what happens, to positioning herself with a book that was already up there on the shelf, and she got 27 people out of 40. Now, the funny part was, I said to her, did you stop at the Mercedes dealership on the way home from that talk? And she thought I was joking. And the reason I was not joking is because I know with Paul and I, if we get 27 people to take us up on our action call or strategy session, we're probably going to be making some big money and maybe go on a vacation or leasing a new car, buying a new car, or whatever. Because 27 people out of 40 is all you need to start creating some really big changes in your business and start really creating some big dollars. So I just love that story about how it was already there and she just sort of changed it a little bit. So yeah, I love that story, Paul. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, and Bob, if you can just try and refresh your browser, you're sounding a little garbled there, and I'll just go on with the next story here.
Okay.
Now, we have another client, Kay White, and she actually is in the UK, and she works in communications. And she was already a very successful business person, but she had met Bob through actually the Lisa Sasevich Mastermind. And Bob, just check in here. And how's your?
Yeah, do you sound a little
much
bit better now? Oh, good.
You sound
Okay,
perfect.
good.
And so I just introduced how you had met Kay through the Sassy Mastermind.
Well, it's really interesting because you're absolutely right. I did meet Kay White. She's a communications expert through the Sassy Mastermind, which I was a member of for a couple of years with Paul, as a matter of fact. But anyhow, I gave her a copy of my book, and she, read it. And before she even finished the book, she contacted me because she wanted to, position herself with a book as well. So right away, we got her book written. We made it a #1 bestseller in the U.S., or excuse me, in the UK. So it became a best-selling book in the UK. And what she does now, this is really interesting, is she gives speeches to between 50 and 100 people, usually women, every couple of months or every month. And when she does, she always gives a free copy of her book. Sometimes the event promoter, pays for the book. Sometimes she pays for the book. Sometimes they split it. But she always makes sure that they get a free copy of the book, just like Paul and I do. If you come to see Paul and I speak, you'll usually get a free copy of our book, because she knows that if she gives a talk and she gives a free copy of the book, she's going to get business. So with her, what she usually found was when she talked to these 50 or 100 women, before she even left the building that day, for that 90-minute talk, she had usually made between $15,000 to $25,000. But it was really interesting. I said, have you looked at the long-term effects or how much money you've made in follow-up in the 12 months following that talk? And she said, no, I haven't really looked into that. I said, well, could you look through and see where those people you're working with today really came from, and just sort of give me a rough idea on how much business you are actually getting from each talk. Well, it was a really neat exercise for her to do, because what she found was she was making over six figures for most of the 90-minute talks within 12 months of that talk. So 15 to 25,000 before she left the building, but usually over six figures, and sometimes multiple six figures over the next 12 months with her book. So these are amazing things that sometimes, once again, we don't even notice. But even on the front part, the 15 to 25,000 is sure something that we see a lot of our authors happen by just handing out a book. Some of the amazing business contacts and some of the amazing um, contracts that they do receive. Is that correct, Paul?
Oh yeah, and I mean, so we're starting to let you in on the secret on making money with the book, but what is it? And just like Bob was saying, when you give out a book free, it actually opens the door to so much more business. And just, a quick example, I go to this gym here in Ottawa. It's called Greco's, and the owner of the gym, his name's Alfie, and he's sitting at the front desk. I see him every day on the way in. I grab a quick coffee at the coffee bar there, because that's what they offer, and it gives me a little kick when I go in for my workout. And then I go in, and 45 minutes later, I'm done. But it was last March, a year ago, and I was really excited because my book just got published. And I showed up that day, and I'm like, "Here, Alfie, here's my book." And he's like, "Oh, wow, that's so cool." And he goes, "Are you going to make it a bestseller?" I was like, "Darn straight we are." And he's like, "Wow, that's really great." And I went in, I did my 45-minute workout, and came back out. And he goes, "I want you to write my book and help me write my book." And we went out, had a meeting just a day later. And that turned into $10,000 in business for us. And that's really, what part of the secret to making money with your book is. You don't actually make money with book sales. You make money using simple strategies to multiply your business. And that's exactly what we're trying to get across to you here today. And any business can do this. This is the story of a client that we had just around Christmas time a year ago. Bob, why don't you tell them where she came from?
Yeah, and this is an important story because this was actually a talk I gave with another book that I did called 101 Reasons Why You Must Write a Book. Very passionate about people writing their own book and positioning themselves, obviously. But anyhow, I'd done this talk in Phoenix, Arizona. And 3 years after I did the talk, she contacted me. It was about, I guess it was about a year ago now, right, Paul? But anyhow, she had contacted me, and she had seen me speak, and she had written her own book. And who she was, her name was Erky, and she was a trichologist. Now, if you're not sure what a trichologist was, I originally thought it was a psychologist, but they couldn't pronounce the name properly. But actually, what a trichologist is somebody that is a person that restores hair loss. And she was a premier expert at restoring women's hair loss. As a matter of fact, she was about 96% successful in restoring women's hair. So that's an amazing success rate that she had. And she'd been doing it for 30 years, and she had written a book. And when she called me finally to say, I need your help, the reason that she finally called me is because she had written a book, but she was on bankruptcy's doorstep. She was literally a couple of weeks away from bankruptcy. As a matter of fact, she had to up her credit limit on her credit card just so she could work with Paul and I to get it turned around for her. But here's what she was doing with her book. Her book was communicating the whole idea of educating these women on hair loss, exactly why they were losing their hair. And she felt once they were educated and they knew all about it and they saw all these conditions and they could turn it around, she thought that, they would just obviously want to work with them. And she had a program that she actually sold for $1,500. And the hard costs for this program were $1,000. So each of these programs that she sold, she was making $500 profit. But the problem was she wasn't selling a lot of them. Believe it or not, she was not making a lot of $500 profits. She was almost broke. So Paul and I, really, we started working with her. And we really started communicating the whole idea about, these women that are coming to see you, and they've come through your book and they've got to know you, who you are, and you position yourself. They don't really want to be educated. What they truly want is their life back. So what we want you to do is we want you to connect with them on an emotional level. So how you do that is when they first contact you and they come into the office, you want to ask them questions such as how long ago did your hair loss start? How is it affecting you in your personal life? And they might say, oh, well, as a matter of fact, I'm a little bit shy to go out now. My self-confidence is lower. And then we would say, well, how's it affecting you in your business life? Well, as a matter of fact, I don't really want to go to any of the business meetings anymore or out on sales calls because my self-confidence and self-esteem is so low because of this hair loss. It's just terrible. Well, how's this, communicating in your relationship with your husband? And at that point, a lot of the times these women would be so emotional, they would break out into tears. And of course, we said, at that point, why don't you ask them what it'd be like if we could turn all that around? And of course, a big smile comes on their face. And, well, then I could, rekindle the relationship with my husband. I would, probably get a promotion at work. I wouldn't be so worried about going outside. I get my self-confidence back. That's exactly what I want. And we said to Erky, okay, well, that's at the point, once you've connected with them emotionally, and found out what's really going on in their life and how it's affecting them, that's at the point you can say, that's exactly what I do. That's what I can do for you. I can restore your hair. And they're going to say, how much is that? And we recommended to her, rather than you say that $1,500, we want you to say $10,000. So she started saying $10,000. And you know something? She sold more at $10,000 relating through her book and through her talks one-on-one to these customers, relating and communicating and connecting on an emotional level. She sold more at $10,000 than the $1,500 level. Now remember, her hard costs are still $1,000. So now rather than making $500 profit, she is now making $9,000 profit and selling more of these programs than before. So she went from having a close near-death bankruptcy problem to having a problem of, what do I do with all this money? So you can see the power in what we're talking about. If you connect with your book and you really position yourself as the authority, the expert, and you really connect with these people on an emotional level with your book and through your talk, there's amazing magical things that can happen with you and your book and your business.
So just for a moment, imagine the feeling. You're an entrepreneur, a coach, or a speaker, and you just know you need a book. But imagine the feeling of getting that book done, having it published, and you see it. You see it up on Amazon. You can find it in bookstores. You search it online, and it's coming up. It shows up in all these different places. You have it in your hands. You're giving it to your clients. Just think about how great that will feel. And then you're giving it to your prospects. You send it out to people, and they show up at your door. They show up wanting to buy from you because they're pre-sold, because you gave them a free copy of your book. And the really fantastic thing about sending books out or putting it into a person's hands is it actually gets you past gatekeepers and straight to the decision makers because of your author status. And I mean, you've seen this time and again, haven't you, Bob?
Oh, absolutely. People that literally would not answer my phone call were actually calling me. It had totally reversed, because you weren't, the intruding pest. You were the welcome guest, and it really made a difference in the energy. People were talking to you for your authority and expertise, rather than looking at you as a salesperson. And it made a huge difference to be looked at as the trusted advisor, rather than the dreaded salesperson. And this just automatically is what your book does. It takes you out of the salesmanship, used car salesman idea. But at the end of the day, of course, you want to give value and you want to help your clients. But at the end of the day, you have to make sales, and you have to have a healthy bottom line with your business to keep doing what you love. So when you position yourself like this with a book, you are automatically making sales, and you are selling even before you even say hi. The book has done a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Isn't that right, Paul?
Yeah, so without really going on any further, let's talk about what you're going to discover in your time with us today, if you haven't already made a whole bunch of discoveries. But we're going to really jump into how to create your own step-by-step money-making book outline, so you can write and publish a book that attracts your ideal client and eliminates your competition. And then we'll talk to you about the secret that makes your product or service the ultimate solution that your clients are craving, so you can triple your fees overnight, just like we're with that story with Erky, where she way more than tripled them. And we'll talk about how you can start attracting leads and making money even before your book is published or written. And that's just what Livia did when she learned how to run a strategy session, and she's still doing this, and her book is still getting ready for publication. And then we're going to talk about the quickest way to get prospects to know, like, and trust you, so you can take them from cold to sold. So let's not waste any time. We're going to get right into this step-by-step money-making book formula, so you can get this book done fast. And here's what you're going to create. And that's a picture of our book, How to Be a Celebrity Expert Author. But it's kind of modeled right after what we suggest for our authors. Is you want to have a 120-page business book. And it's about 8 to 10 chapters. And, there's a very specific reason for having a book of this size. And what are the benefits of this kind of book, Bob?
Well, there's a lot of benefits to this size of book, but probably the most important ones are, we really encourage, of course, that you give your book away. And if you're giving your book away, you want it to be smaller and lighter and less money to reproduce. So, obviously a 400-page book is going to cost a lot more to produce than a 120-page book. A 400-page book is going to take a lot more energy for you to bring, let's say, 100 copies with you because of the weight to a talk. So they're lighter, they cost less. And, the third reason, which is important too, is a lot of people nowadays, they don't have the time to read a 400-page book. They're not interested in a 400-page book. If you can get your point through to the problem you solve and connect with them on an emotional level in 120 pages, that's exactly what they're looking for. So keep the book small. There's a lot of different benefits besides that, but those are the three main ones.
All right, so here's the step-by-step money-making book outline. And there's 4 steps, 4 phases. Phase 1, you want to position. And this is really the most important phase, because it'll keep you from writing the wrong book. Phase 2, that's when you want to produce the book. This is the writing and getting it edited and making sure that you have everything together and ready to publish, which is phase 3. And you want to do these pretty much in order, because it just works a lot better if you figure out who you're targeting before you produce the book and then publish it. But a lot of people do jump out of order. Now, step 4, profit. This is the one where we suggest you start with that one. Figure out how to make money right from the get-go, and we'll let you do that step out of order. But let's go back to phase 1, which is, what is the goal of your book? Positioning. And if you start your book with a goal in mind, you will be starting out on the right foot. You will write the right book. And that's where the most successful authors start. And some goals to consider are, you want to establish your credibility. Like, maybe you're new in a field and you think that it would take years to build up the credibility. This is a way to jump to the top. You want to generate leads, because all businesses, need to make sales, and sales are made by having a lot of leads. And a book is a really fantastic way to generate leads. Maybe you want to charge higher fees, and you need to have that credibility in order to do so, or something that justifies why you're charging more than everyone else. You want to sell high ticket programs. Like this is how Bob and I, will make a lot of money off of a very small event. Is that we sell high ticket programs, and our programs range anywhere from $2,500 on the low end to $25,000 on the high end. So if you're selling programs of that size, it doesn't take a lot of sales before you're making good money. You want to educate customers. Some people are in industries where people, their customers will stay longer, will buy more if they know what to do. And educating customers in a book keeps you from having to say things over and over again. You want to generate referrals. If you hand out your book to people, they can pass it on to someone else. And a lot of times, people will come in they might even be holding your book. And, because they have that book in their hands, they already have a level of knowing you, liking you, and trusting you. And then you can create multiple streams of income because there's so many ways, and we keep on discovering new fantastic ways that people can make money with their books. So what's the secret that makes your product or service the ultimate solution that your clients are craving so you can triple your fees overnight? Well, this is actually the phase one in our Write Your Book Fast program, and that's figuring out who this book is for. Who is your perfect customer who will benefit from the information you put in this book? Whose life are you changing? Because it's all about the transformation that you're producing. And who's going to fulfill that objective of your book or your book goal? So, who are those clients you're looking for? Who are you looking to have referred to you? Who do you want to sell that high ticket program to? When you start with this, in mind, and you write the book that will address this goal, you're going to be in a winning position. And that takes us to the perfect customer. And when you know your perfect customer, you can jump straight to phase 4 and start profiting, because as soon as you know your perfect customer and you know this inside out, before you're even done your book, you can cash in. And like I said, this is just what Livia did with her Rolfing practice. She started to know who would actually want to invest in having their body work better. Like someone as crazy as me whose knees aren't working but doesn't want to quit activity. And she had people starting to drop $1,000 like left, right, and center instead of spending $100. So what is a perfect customer, first of all, and how much are they worth? Now, what we really want to get across here is the lifetime value of a customer, just to show you what you actually can think of investing in a customer. And also what it does is it really puts in perspective, how much you should respect and appreciate your customers. Now, let's look at, on average, what do you earn with a new sale? Now, for me as a chiropractor, a new sale would mean like a new patient came into me with back pain, and I tell them, okay, well, here's what you have going on. It's going to take you several months to take care of it. You're going to have to come in and see me 3 times a week. So it would be nothing for me to charge $1,000 or to have someone pay me $1,000, because they'd be paying $45 each time they come in, and then they come in 3 times a week and they do that for a few months. It would add up pretty fast. Now, assuming that this person refers me 2 people over the course of a year, of 2 or 5 people over the course of 2 years, that's not a whole lot of people. They bring in their family, they refer a coworker, or they refer a friend, maybe their parent or something like that. That routinely happened. And if each of those people actually do the same thing as the first person and spend $1,000, that's going to turn into $5,000 of referral income. And so if I think of that first person that came in and spent $1,000 plus the referral income they bring, that client's actually worth $6,000. But that's really a kind of low estimate, don't you think, Bob? Because you actually had a different calculation for that.
Well, I love this point that you're bringing up, because it's so important, because it can really make the difference in a company's profits when you perceive the true value of a client. Because to me, all our clients are absolute gold and treated accordingly, because we know the value of our clients. So even back when I was in the brick and mortar business, when I started off even in carpet cleaning, the average living room, dining room, and hall to get cleaned back then was about $120 or so, or $150. And we figured out over the course of their lifetime, if they got their, let's say their carpets cleaned once a year, and they had them cleaned for 25 years, and then they referred a couple of people a year, we figured the lifetime value of just a carpet cleaning customer was $35,000. Now, when you look at that customer or that client, and you look at them and you go, this is a $35,000 customer, you look at them completely different than they're just paying $120. And it's important for you to know that. Another example of that is myself and my family have gone to a local restaurant for years, well, almost about 25 years now. And even though, let's say the cost of a meal might be $15 to $20, this particular restaurant, this local restaurant, they knew the lifetime value of a client. So, for example, with us, we sometimes ate there with the entire family once or twice a week. So it could be, $50 or $100 each time, a couple of times a week, 4 times a month. So now you're looking at $800 a month times 12 months times, 25 years, plus all the people we referred to this restaurant because they knew the value of a client. So they knew the value of a client just even with a restaurant customer, in my particular case, was probably well over 6 figures. So if anybody in my family ever said, something like, well, I, didn't really like it tonight or it was cold or whatever, there was never, ever any questions asked of any restaurant patron. They would never ask any questions. They would just automatically say, let us fix that. Let us bring you another meal. What would you like instead? And 9 times out of 10, not only would they do that, they would probably not even charge you for dinner that night because they didn't look at you as a $20 meal. They looked at you like $100,000 client. And let me tell you something, in Vancouver, where I live, it's a competitive business, the restaurant. And if you don't look at your client like that, you will not last very long. If you're ready to stand on the front lines and fight with them over $20, you will be out of business. But if you really see the true value of your clients, that's the lifetime value of a client, that's when the magic starts happening. And that's when you start really seeing your clients appreciate you and you start appreciating them. So it's the only way to look at it. Right, Paul?
Yeah, and so what you want to do is now that you know the value of these customers, these clients, and you're writing a book for them, you have to think, why will they care about your book? And this is the positioning we're talking about, and you've got to write it from the you got to write it from the point of view of what's in it for me, because they're the ones reading your book, so they don't really care about all the stuff you know and all the credentials you have. What they really care about is what's going to happen to them because they read your book. So if you're thinking along these lines, you want to think, what problem are you solving? And how do these people that you're writing for perceive their problem? They need to see the problem through their own eyes and know that you understand who they are, that you really get them. And not only do you get their problem, but you get the results they crave. Because, you want to know what keeps them up at night, but you also want to know, like, what is it that would just make them sleep like a baby and make them feel like, oh, everything's handled. I don't have to worry about that anymore. And my life is so good. I'm so happy now that I have my life back. Because if you know the answer to that, then you've got it in the bag. Like, you will have them just like banging down your door to work with you because they figure, like, I have found the person that has the answer to my problem. And when you can answer their problem and you have a system for doing it, then what you want to do is create this proprietary system. And Bob, what's the benefit of doing this?
Well, the neat thing about a proprietary system is once you do have this proprietary system, it is yours. You're not a commodity anymore. They can't compare prices. They can only get your system from you. And there's a big difference when they start looking at it. Well, I can't get it from Fred down the street. I can only get it from you. So what you want to do is you want a proprietary system. It could be, 3, 5, or 7-step system that you have named. You could have an acronym name for it, but it is definitely yours. Now, some people get confused by this concept. And the reason they get confused is because they go, well, what's my proprietary system? I don't really have a proprietary system. I really do sometimes even the same as my competitors do. Well, that's not really a problem. You want to set yourself apart just a little bit. But let me tell you a story about a brewery. I can't remember the name of the brewery, but there was a brewery probably a number of years ago now, and they weren't doing that well. But they decided to let everybody know exactly how they brewed the beer, their system for brewing the beer. They had stainless steel, vats, and they were brewed for a certain amount of time. The beer was brewed. They had the best hops, and they went through this whole little story about exactly how they brewed the beer. Well, they at that day and time went from almost the last brewery in North America to, I think it was the first or second brewery in North America, by telling their story about how they brewed their beer. But here's the funny point about it. Most people didn't realize it, is every brewery brewed their beer the exact same way, but they were the only people that told the story. So you want to have a story of your proprietary system. And once you tell the story of your 3, 5, or 7, or whatever you name it, proprietary system, they will realize that I can't go down to Walmart or Fred down the street. I can only get this from Bob, and that's exactly what I want. So what we want to do is when we start putting your book together and we talk about proprietary systems, there's a lot of ways that we're going to be breaking down the book. But one of the first things you want to realize is that a lot of the times we are our ideal client. The reason that we are doing what we are doing is we wanted to solve a problem for ourselves, and we went through a lot of pain and effort to get to where we are today, and we did solve that problem. And now we're solving it for our clients because we've gone down that path. So you want to talk about that. You want to talk about, your story, why it is you're here today doing what you're doing and why you're passionate about it. And we call that your $1 million story. And the reason you want to do that is you want to connect with them. You want to connect with the whole idea that you're just like them. And of course you are. And you want to connect with them on an emotional level. And you want to tell them that, I was there, and I'm here now, and you can do it too. So you want to start off your book when you talk about writing it. You want to talk about your $1 million story. So if we're going to write, let's say, a 120-page book, what we want to do first is we want to break up your book into your table of contents. And with that table of contents, you want to break it up, let's say a 120-page book, into 8 or 10 chapters or topics. So actually write out the 8 or 10 topics or chapters you want to talk about in your book. It's like your table of contents. And then what you want to do is you want to break each of these topics or chapters into 3 to 5 points. That's it. 3 to 5 points. That's all. Now, the reason I bring this up about, doing the table of contents first is if you take that time to do the table of contents first, it's really going to make a huge difference of writing. Because once it's broken down like this with the 2 to 5 points, it's really sort of easy to put together. Because remember, the goal of your book is 120 pages, and that's it. So once this table of contents is due, you're taking these 3 to 5 points, these topics or chapters, and you just start writing. You just start writing in conversational style English and start going through and writing about these chapters. Now, here's the neat thing about what I've laid out for you, is if you do the table of contents first, the neat thing about it is you can write the book in any order you want. You can write the 7th chapter first, and then the 2nd chapter, and then the 10th chapter, and then the 1st chapter. But the neat thing about it is now everything's going to fit together nicely. And once you get an editor, you could switch it around and anyhow. But if you don't take the time to map it out or templatize it or do that blueprint first, you're going to find that you will always get, for most of us, writer's block. You're going to get stopped at about page 40. You're going to have major writer's block. And then if you try and take those 40 pages and put it back into this template that I talk about, you're going to find that you're not able to do that. You're going to have to throw out those first 40 pages that you've written and start over again. So don't underestimate the power of doing your table of contents first. It just makes it so much easier. Isn't that true, Paul?
Yeah. And when you can write like this, well, the goal is to finish with 120 pages. And 120 pages, it works out to roughly 30,000 words, because the average page of a 5.5 by 8.5 book has about 250 words on it. So, if you sorry, just getting some feedback here. Okay, that just stopped. So if you break it down, you can, I don't know why it's doing that. close that. All right. So what you can do is you can break it down into chunks. If you've got your if you got your chapters and your points all broken down, maybe you're going to write 1,000 words a day, and that's kind of like writing an essay every day. And then if you do that, it'll take you 30 days to write your book. Now, that might seem a little daunting, and I told you a little earlier that I would share with you the 4 people who can really save you hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of work. And this is how Bob and I produced our book, and we actually wrote the content of our book in 5 days. And if you think about it, the average person speaks at about 100 words a minute. So in order to come up with 1,000 words, all you need to do is talk for 10 minutes. And if you have this structure produced where you have all your chapters and your points all laid out, well, all you need is, number one, an interviewer, somebody who can ask you questions about your points, and you just speak to each topic. And if you answer all your speaking points, this gets recorded and it gets handed off to the transcriber. And I found my transcriber on Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, and typically it's about $60 an hour, so $1 a minute for transcription. And what happens is you get this nice Word document back with all your ums and ahs taken out, any repetition pretty much taken out, and it's separated into paragraphs. And now, instead of having a blank page staring you in the face, causing writer's block, you have a whole document with all your speaking points all laid out, and text under that you can work with and manipulate. And once you do that, you can hand it to a ghostwriter. And what a ghostwriter does is puts it into like clear sentences, makes sure that there's a flow, but keeps that voice of yours, keeps it sounding like it's you, keeps it sounding conversational, because we're doing a business book. We're not doing like a textbook or some sort of, literary masterpiece. We're doing a book that connects with the common person and gets them to want to use your business. And so you get the ghostwriter to keep it in your voice. And once that person's done with it, they hand it off to the editor, who just, takes out all the grammatical errors, makes sure that everything is formatted the same, like you're consistent. And once it goes through those 4 people, the interviewer, the transcriber, the ghostwriter, and the editor, you're done. You have a manuscript. And then you can move on to phase 3 of our Get It Done Fast publishing or book writing system. And you move into publishing. And you've got to choose a publishing option that is congruent with the goal of your book. Now, there's basically 3 options. The choice of these options is going to shape the professional image of your book. If you choose the right option, you can make a lot of money. If you choose the wrong option, it'll end up being a loss. It'll cost you money. So first, we already told you the traditional publishing industry is dried up. So just, don't go down that route, because it's just, it's a pain in the butt for most people. And if you want to get things done fast, it's so much faster to take on one of the other options, because, the traditional publishing route, how long does that take, Bob?
Well, a minimum of 1.5 years. And nowadays, anyway, even if you do get a traditional publishing agreement, the publisher's not going to sell the book for you. You're still going to sell the book anyway. That's just a fact.
So, if you really want to get your book done within 6 months to a year, you're not going to want to look at this anyway. And there's so many things that go against getting a traditional publisher. We just say, we've advised most people to forget about it. And then there's self-publishing. You just want to be careful you don't hurt your image and by self-publishing badly. And there's so many things you can do wrong. We have seen every error. And in fact, there's so many that we could do a whole presentation on this itself, right from choosing the wrong title, having a really bad cover that really hurts your image, putting the product description up on, putting a bad product description up, so when people look you up, it can do the exact opposite of what you wanted to do by writing your book in the first place. And not to mention all the time it takes to learn how to self-publish. It's not really, it's simple. It's like there are simple steps. It's just that it's very confusing because there's so many of them. And then there's pay to publish. And this is where you actually hire someone to make you look good. You hire someone to make your book look professional, get it get it published and into distribution, get it found in bookstores all over the place, and just making sure it's done right and taking all those headaches out of your hands. And how do you choose a pay to publish publisher? Well, you want to make sure that it's someone who's had a good track record. You know, their authors have been really successful. Have they had success publishing the type of book that you want to publish? Are their authors, you know, making good money? Are they doing? Are they raising their profile? Are their businesses doing really well? And you want to know that it's somebody who understands the expert industry and how experts make good money with a book. And so here are some of our authors, some people that we've published. And Bob, you've actually worked with, you know, we've this is the second time we're working with Joe Vitale.
Yeah, absolutely. The second time we're working with Joe Vitale, but just before I get to Joe Vitale, I just want to give the answer to remember the good news story for Lisa Sasevich was she actually ended up getting her book paid to publish, and she did it with us. And it's been a very successful book. And just to let you know how that happened, I, introduced myself as Bob Burnham, the author of the best-selling book, and I gave her a copy of the book. I handed her a copy of the book. And of course, she gave me the job of putting her book together, the Live Sassy Formula, which we did now in 2012. And that's exactly what it is. So think about that. She's the gal that, mentors some of the highest profile people on the planet, went the traditional publishing route, and it just did not work for her. But she went for the pay to publish model, which has worked out really, really well. But not only did it work out really well for her, it worked out really well for us because, we have, we had a great client by just handing out a book. And, that was a $46,000 job. And I'll give you another example, as you're saying, Paul. We actually just released a second book for Joe Vitale. Now, Joe Vitale is from the movie The Secret. And we did one for him last year called The Midas Touch, and it became a bestseller. And then we did one for him this year, which was just released. I think it was February 24th. It was just released. It's already become a bestseller. But that's the second one we've done for him. And once again, it's a pay for publish. So, when we talk about, Paul, I think the first book you handed out was at your gym, and you retained a $10,000 contract by just handing out that one book. I had originally thought that the biggest contract I'd ever got was from Lisa Sasevich for around $46,000. But then I realized, just like a lot of people, we forget about our successes. I had another client that I handed a book to, and I'm still counting the amount of money that's coming in from handing this person a book, but it's already up to approximately about $96,000 by just handing them a book and introducing myself and positioning myself with that book. So these are the things that a book can do for you. And these are the type of people that you can attract by positioning yourself with a book. How cool is that, right, Paul?
It's so cool. And it's just a matter of like, are you focusing on the wrong number still? Like, you're not still focusing on that 1997 you can get for selling your book, I hope, because like these are the numbers that are totally possible when you do it right. So you want to make sure that your book is published right. And here's how your publisher can make you shine. They do professional formatting, so it doesn't look like you did it yourself on your computer. And the title and subtitle is the most important thing on your book because it's really what hooks people in. And you do this wrong, and people are going to bypass you even if the content's great. And then you also want your cover to be attention grabbing. It has to really resonate with your target audience. And that goes all the way back to positioning, like the first phase of getting your book done fast. And if you do that properly and you get the attention grabbing cover, you got the hooky title and subtitle, you'll be able to do the things that Bob and I are talking about here. And then your back cover copy just needs to scream, "This is for me. This is for me." Your ideal client needs to look at that and say, "Are you reading my mind? Like, how did you know that about me?" And then your professional product description, when people look you up on Amazon or they look you up in the bookstores and your book comes up, it says exactly who the book's for, what it's about, and what they're going to benefit from it. And it doesn't lead them astray. It doesn't make them get a bad taste in their mouths. They want to go further. They want to get the book. They want to work with you. And then you need worldwide distribution. You want to be found everywhere when people are looking for you. Because if you speak somewhere, if you speak on somebody else's webinar, if you put something out on social media and people find out about you and they find out you have a book, you want them to be able to find your book. So how can you start attracting leads and making money before your book's even published? And I know for a lot of you, you're just at the stage where you want to be writing the book, and you're considering the publisher, but you got to get down to writing that book right away. And so it would be nice to make some money before you even get to the stage of writing and publishing it. So one of the best things that you can do is you need a book, you're starting, so commit. Like, start today and just start introducing yourself as an author, and this really pays off. And Bob, did you want to say anything about this?
Well, actually, we've really been developing a lot of different techniques of starting to make money with your book before it's even published. It's sort of a list of techniques that's grown over the past, I guess, year or so, and it's important because a lot of the times, a book can take sometimes anywhere from a month to 6 months, and we're not saying that you have to wait to get the book out there before you start making any money. As a matter of fact, we are always thinking about the quickest path to cash for any of our clients they can get to. So what does that mean? Well, what you can do is you can start positioning yourself with that book almost right away with things like, your email signature. Rather than, Bob Burnham and the company you work for, you can now put, Bob Burnham, author of the soon to be released book, and use the title. We've had a lot of clients use that, and all of a sudden clients start looking at them in a different way. You've got this slide here right now, Paul, where you start introducing yourself as, hi, I am Bob. I'm the author of the soon to be released or soon to be published book, and give the title and subtitle, and you'll be amazed at the different response. As a matter of fact, we had a gal not that long ago, Paul, as you know of, Janet, where she actually just made the cover of her book first and started passing out covers, and she started getting all sorts of opportunities of people wanting to do business with her by just passing out the cover and saying to, they would say to her as well, please make sure you keep us on the list as soon as the book's out to send it to us. So, you don't have to wait until the book's done. As a matter of fact, it sort of reminds me of an interesting story, which is quite unique. When I first started in this business, one of the things I did was I called up the continuing education, the New Westminster branch in Vancouver school district. And what I did was I introduced myself as Bob Burnham. I'm the author of the soon to be released 101 Reasons Why You Must Write a Book. And I would like to teach a course in your school in a continuing education called How to Write and Publish a Book in 40 Days. And the person I was talking to, the school administrator, said, that sounds like a really great course. Can you send me a course description on that? So what I did was I said, absolutely, I can do that. I hung up the phone. And as soon as I hung up the phone, I wrote out the course description. And then I sent the course description to the administrator, called them back about a week or so later. I said, what do you think about the course description? They said, this is going to be a fantastic course for our students. I know a lot of students would love to know how to write, position themselves with a book, and what you're doing is really great. And you're going to be publishing a book soon on this anyway. So yeah, no, let's book some dates. So we booked some dates to, actually teach the course. So what I did was once I got off the phone after booking the dates, I actually started developing the course. So not only was the book not finished, the course wasn't written, but all this was done on the assumption that, I was I was the author of the soon to be released book. So I actually started making money with the book before it was actually written. And now, of course, the book is written and all that is history, and the course is all together. I've been teaching that course for almost, I guess, about 8 years or no, 10 years. So, these are the kind of things that you can do with your book even before it's published. And we're always coming up with new ideas on this all the time, aren't we, Paul?
Yeah, just the opportunities just keep compounding. And, we have our clients doing all sorts of things, like even interviewing people for the content for their books. It's our new favorite one. We'll just drop that one. And you know what? The beauty of interviewing people, I'm the author of the soon to be released book, and I need to interview you. If you target the people that sign checks, the people that have the power to hire you, and you go and you interview them on the assumption that, you're going to put some of that material in their book. Well, what kind of impression do you think that makes on them? And that leads right into the last point that we wanted to cover with you guys today is the quickest way to get prospects to know, like, and trust you so you can take them from cold to sold. And, just like I said, if you're interviewing these people and, you form a relationship and develop rapport with them before your book's even done, they're going to be asking for a copy of that book. They're going to ask for you to come back. And if you tell them, well, I also have developed a program, I have a talk that goes along with this book, well, who do you think is going to hire you? So the easiest ways to make money with your book are, well, speaking is a great one. Teaching programs and courses to your ideal clients. And again, like our favorite thing lately is getting people to interview ideal clients to find out exactly the kind of courses they want. And you design your courses and you use the language that you've used from studying your ideal client, and these people can't help but hire you. You can use your book and your author status to open doors. Bob used his pre-author status to get a teaching spot in the continuing ed department in Vancouver. You can do this anywhere in any town. Lots of our clients are doing it. And you can mail your book to people. If you send it to people in the media, you'll get interviews. The local TV stations are always looking for people to interview. And so you can get yourself all sorts of free publicity on the TV, on radio, in the newspaper. Local newspapers will write all about you. You can get into the bigger publications too, but it's so easy if you start local, and there's clients all around you. So you don't want to ever sit on your book, because just like our client Susan, like the opportunity when you say that I'm the author of this book, and you really use it to build your status, you can get all sorts of doors open to you. So, and then the other thing is you want to use your book to generate referrals. And, Bob, tell them about the magic of referrals through your book.
Well, it's really neat is, a lot of us ask, that our clients refer us. And, some of our clients are happy to refer us. And sometimes when we ask them, they're a little bit uncomfortable. They like what we do, but, it's not their job to sell us. So, the interesting thing is once you position yourself with a book, they look to you as a celebrity, the authority, and they're only too happy to pass out your book because it's bragging rights to them. Yeah, give Bob a call. He wrote the best-selling book on how to be a celebrity expert author. Tell him you know me. And they love doing that. And it's really interesting, some of the stats we've come to know, Paul, from, our clients, plus the clients, that are doing these systems that we talk about. But we've actually found that, this process of positioning yourself with a book is your clients will stay with you 3 times longer. You'll make 3 times as much money from that client, and your clients will refer you 10 times more often. Now, that's a huge difference in, profit or bottom line at the end of the day. So that's 3 times as much money, 10 times more referrals, and they will stay with you 3 times longer. And these are just some of the stats that we've collected over a number of years. And it certainly reminds me of another story that I just want to tell why I think about it, Paul. And that's a fellow that we didn't actually publish his book, but I just thought it was a really interesting illustration. There's a fellow that actually, he sends his book out to approximately about 250 people per year. He's written this book and he sends it out to 250 ideal clients per year. And what he does is he usually makes approximately about $350,000 a year. He works part-time. He and his family have 3 to 5 vacations per year. And of course, I say to him, why don't you just sort of bump your business up and make, a 7-figure business? He says, Bob, why would I want to do that? I make more money than I can possibly spend. And I go on 3 to 5 vacations a year, and all as I do is I send out, about 250 books to my ideal clients, and that's all I need. I'm working part-time for this type of money. So, these are the types of things when you see the possibilities, and I say infinite possibilities that you're going to get when you position yourself with a book. And, as I was saying before, when we were talking about Kay, it was the same thing. She would pass out her book, and, she would get a six-figure payday by talking to 50 or 100 women and passing out that book to the audience. So there's a lot of different, ways of monetizing your book, but just get that book written and get it out there. But even that, you can start positioning yourself and start making money with your book before it's even written, right, Paul?
Yeah, and just like Bob was saying about Kay, like just getting in front of your ideal clients and speaking with your book, it is like one of the best ways to make money. And there's so many ways to make money that we actually have our 10 ways to make big money with your book. And this is something that you can claim in the bonuses if you go down underneath the video here and you click on the screen. And just click claim my bonuses, we'll send you a copy of this of the PDF of this infographic, and it has all the things that we've been talking about in the webinar and some more that you can do so that you can really generate multiple streams of income with your book. And it's really amazing what people do. They turn their book into programs, into courses, and they're charging like $2,000, $5,000, or $10,000 for these courses. And it doesn't just stop with writing the book. If you follow a system for making big money with your book, and you know how to do it right, you can really cash in, and it's not hard to make that six-figure income. It's hard to make a six-figure income if you're looking at book royalties, but when you do it this way, it doesn't take any time at all. So, why did you show up today? And you already know you need a book because, if you're an expert in any field, the competition in the marketplace, people's attention span, all the technology out there, it's got people to the point where they're ADD. They just can't pay attention anymore. But there's some things that, they're old school, but they're never going away. And books, meeting people, speaking to people, that's always going to be around. It will always be around. So you need a book, and it's really time for you to step onto the field. You've got to get this book done. So if you know that getting your book done fast is going to help, double, triple your business, really make a significant difference in your business income, then let's get this book done. What we're offering today is another bonus, and this bonus is worth $500 just in the cost of time alone, because we're talking about Bob and I getting on the phone with you. But if you take it up and put it in action, this free get it done income stream activator session is worth so much more. And what'll happen is we will actually spend 90 minutes with you in a three-way call. And remember, Bob's in Vancouver, I'm in Ottawa, and we don't know where you are necessarily. And so we already are dealing with like 2 time zones with Bob and I. So we got to schedule this. So if you're serious, we will actually go through the difficulty of coordinating 3 schedules and getting us together on the phone. And we have a really nice gal named Cindy. She's our assistant, and she actually will call you and make sure that we can find a time that works for you. And we'll get on the phone with you to figure out what's the best way to multiply your business income with a book. How should we target that book? What would be the right book to write? And if we can't find you some income streams, which we just doubt that that will even happen, Bob, what's the guarantee that we've got for them?
Well, this is the really neat part. We're so confident in the systems that we share, that we use, and we share with all our clients, and we work with every day, that if we spend 90 minutes with you and we can't show you a couple of ways to substantially increase your business with a book, we will actually publish your book for free. Now, that's a hard cost for us of about $2,500. You would have to do it within a year of taking the call. But if at the end of the call you decide, Bob, Paul, you have not showed me one way that I can substantially increase my business with a book. So I want you to honor your guarantee and publish my book for free and no questions asked. We will be happy to do that. But we would much prefer that we are able to show you, and I know we can, ways that you could substantially increase your business with a book. So, be open to the ideas. We look forward to talking to you. It's completely free, and I hope we got some people taking advantage of this, right, Paul?
Yeah, so just make sure that if you know that you're serious about getting a book published soon and you just want to get this book done, then click claim my bonuses and just make sure that you put your name, your email, and your phone number in there because that's how we're connecting. We're going to be getting together on the phone, and I will be really excited to hear about your business, Bob too, and yeah, thank you very much for your time for joining us today, and we really hope to be talking to you soon.
Have a great day, everybody.